Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the 3rd of February 2014, the podcast that's insane in the left brain. This is your host, Shane Killian, and joining me again this week is Jonathan Loesche. John, welcome back to the show.
Been a while, good to be back.
So, kicking off the news of the Bogus, a Dutch court has found that blocking websites like the Pirate Bay is ineffective against piracy. And this comes right on the heels of their earlier finding that water is wet.
Who'd have thunk it? I mean, never mind, of course, you could always just enter in the IP address to get around that.
Or go to one of the numerous mirrors that are around everywhere.
Mm-hmm. The Pirate Bay at this point seemingly is changing its domain name once a week at this point, but...
They changed domain names, I think, 6 times last year.
Only 6? That kind of surprises me.
And I think this was an IP block, actually, so you couldn't type in the IP address. You had to type in one of the millions of other IP addresses that could get you there.
There you go. Considering, well, all the bogosity of European courts we're going to get into later on in this podcast.
Well, the ISP, Access for All, has said that since the blocks have been shown to be ineffectual, it's a hardship on the ISPs to mandate them. Quote, in applying the case law from the European Court of Justice, ECJ, the Court of Appeal held that an access provider is not under an obligation to take measures that are disproportional and or ineffective. And the court not only agreed, they ordered Brine, which is that big anti-piracy group, to pay 326,000 euros, that's about $445,000, in legal fees. Now that's a good one, hit them where they live.
Yeah, exactly.
Access for All was joined in the appeal by their competitor Ziggo. Access for All has already removed the blocks, and Ziggo is expected to follow suit soon. After the ruling, Access for All said, quote, we are very pleased by the court's verdict. This guarantees freedom of access to information. That is good for Dutch citizens, good for the internet, and good for ISPs who can continue to fulfill their important role neutrally.
Yes, it's interesting. We have the whole net neutrality thing that sort of exploded in recent weeks. It's been our own governments that have been crowding on net neutrality with arbitrary blocking of websites and shutting down not just the Pirate Bay, Mega Upload and all those other sites.
Yeah, government is the reason why it's not neutral. It's either stuff like this or it's granting these telcos local monopoly powers, so you have a monopoly or, if you're relatively lucky, a duopoly. You know, maybe you have a cable provider and then you have a telco like AT&T or Verizon that gives you internet, and that's it, unless you want to go satellite, which is beastly slow, really expensive, and has all these latency problems. They won't open it up to competition and let people go in it. If people had competition, you wouldn't have to worry about it, because if an ISP did something you don't like these data caps and stuff like that, people would just go with the competition.
For me, for my job, I work from home a lot. Comcast is the only one that has broadband, high-speed internet. DSL just can't cut it for the internet speeds I need for work.
Oh, that's the situation I was in, because doing video, and I have to upload videos to clients and to TV stations and cable companies. AT&T doesn't even have Uverse here. They just have the DSL, and upload was like 512K per second. So the only other option I had was charter cable, and at least now I can upload at 4 megabits, so that's better. But that's my options right there. That's it.
4 megabits? Welcome to 2005, Shane.
Yeah, I know. Where's my Google Fiber? I want my Google Fiber.
Yeah, that's one thing, as I Google Fiber, I would love to have that here, but it's also when I was reading about all the insane amount of money that Kansas City, and I think what was the other one, Austin, were giving Google to basically bribe them to come there.
Yeah, well, that always happens. If you're gonna refuse to do business with companies that do that, you're gonna refuse to do business with practically everyone. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Don't shop at Walmart. Don't shop at Lowe's. Don't shop at,
Mm-hmm.
Well, getting back to the subject, the director of Brine said, quote, the court's ruling is detrimental to the development of the legal online market, which requires protection against illegal competition. Yeah, that horrible competition. We need to get rid of it. Who cares about free speech and free access to information?
Yeah, I mean, we know HBO hasn't made a dime off Game of Thrones since it was the most pirated show of the year.
Yeah, and I noticed they've had to cut the budget so low that they have cardboard sets and they're filming it in people's backyards. It's just so cheaply made.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I hope this is part of a worldwide trend, not just with unblocking websites. I like this idea that businesses shouldn't have to comply with regulations that don't work. how many regulations would we have left if our courts did this?
I'm sure Obama would find a way to put them all back anyway.
Yeah, he'd pass an executive order. Speaking of Obama, did you catch any of his State of the Union address?
No.
Yeah, I chose to watch something more intelligent like SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, I think I was over on Reddit, so I just was like, nope.
But apparently, he kinda sorta said he wanted to reform the NSA spying we've talked about. It's a shame he didn't go as far as his own Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board did when it found that the NSA's program of collecting telephone and telephony metadata was illegal and ineffective. Quote, "We have not identified a single instance involving a threat to the United States in which the program made a concrete difference in the outcome of a counterterrorism investigation. We are aware of no instance in which the program directly contributed to the discovery of a previously unknown terrorist plot or the disruption of a terrorist attack." Imagine that, something else government did that doesn't work.
The amount of data that they're collecting, there's no possible human way that they could honestly sort through all the data they're collecting.
Well, and that's the problem. They take so much time doing that. That's time they're not actually following leads and trying to get the real bad guys.
I mean, it's Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park. They spent so much time thinking about could they do it, they didn't ask should they do it.
That's the story of government, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. This is clearly unconstitutional to anyone outside of D.C., but try telling that to lawmakers.
Yeah, the Obama administration has come out and said otherwise. According to NSC spokesstooge Caitlin Hayden, quote, "The administration believes the program is lawful. The president believes we can and should make changes in the program that will give the American people greater confidence in it. We don't need more confidence in it, we need it gone."
Yeah, if this was legal and confident, then why'd the guy who exposed its secrecy have to run off to Russia for protection?
Yeah. In fact, the board recommended the mass deletion of every copy of all these phone records. And they also called for more transparency and for providing the public with full disclosure as to exactly what parts of our lives are under surveillance and what the legal justification for it is.
Cue 2007 clip of Obama saying he'd have the most transparent administration ever.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Patrick Leahy is co-sponsoring a bill to shut down the program entirely, so best of luck to him.
I think that's going to be like a lot of Ron Paul's audit the Fed bills.
Well, he is the chairman of the committee, so I think this one's actually got a chance of making it out of committee.
Assuming Harry Reid will even let it stand.
Yeah. Hackers, terrorists, the NSA. But I repeat myself. Your online security is under attack, and the weakest point is your password. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass plugs into your browser and allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords anywhere on the web, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers and all your computers, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, membership info, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications and even mobile devices, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. History is written by the winners, and so apparently is economics. That's why there's Liberty Classroom. Probably the best single learning resource for history and economics on the web, Liberty Classroom teaches U.S. history, Western Civ, and economics from actual university professors. There's lots of free material to get you started, including introductory lectures on all these subjects. And when you sign up, you'll get the full site's content for just $99 a year, less than the price of 2 cups of coffee a month. And if you type in the promo code Bogosity in all caps, you'll get your first year for just $88. Lectures are available in both video and audio format, so you can watch or listen to them on your computer, your phone or tablet, or in your car. Learn at your own pace about the subjects you're interested in and become a more effective debater. You'll also get access to lots of supplemental materials and even the professors themselves via the discussion forum and even live video chats. Inform yourself against the myths and propaganda of our society. Visit libertyclassroom.com. So, John, you're going to tell us more about those red light scammers.
My lovely municipality, hometown Jacksonville, they signed about a year ago a contract with a company called Redflex. Well, apparently the city officials in Jacksonville and 12 other states may have gotten a little extra bonus money to have all these cameras. As an ex-official of Redflex, Aaron Rosenberg, made several statements in a civil defamation suit where he was, quote, made a scapegoat to cover up long-standing practices of providing government officials with lavish gifts and bribes in order to better secure contracts.
Wow. It's kind of like they're making money by this and they want to make more, so they bribe officials to do it.
Just to give you an idea, in Jacksonville they installed 24 cameras. The contract the city signed guarantees Redflex $10,000 a month per camera.
They guarantee it?
Guarantee it.
How are they going to know that there are going to be that many people running the red lights during that time?
The JSO, or local police, they actually released the ticket information. Red light camera ticket in Florida is $158. So, 10,000 divided by 158. Basically, they have to guarantee 64 tickets a month just for Redflex to get its guarantee. That's before the city sees a single dime. And then Redflex also takes 33% after their guarantee has been met.
Wow.
But yeah, so in Jacksonville, 6 out of the 24 don't even hit the guarantee. So taxpayers have to subsidize these cameras.
So even if people aren't running the red lights, the city still has to pay Redflex that amount of money.
Yes.
Wow. That's a nice scam. How do I get involved in that? I could use some extra money.
Yeah, let's see here. In some of the slowest ones, less than 30 tickets a month are issued. So that's another $5,000 the city has to come up with. Keep in mind, my city's claiming it's so broke that it can't even turn on streetlights to save money.
And then all the city councilmen say, well, we need to solve this issue, so we're going to go to Hilton Head at a nice hotel for a weekend and discuss it or whatever.
Pretty much. Actually, it'd probably be on Shad Khan, who's the owner of the Jaguars. He owns about a 150-foot yacht. Major city council meeting. Oh, Shad Khan has his nice luxury yacht parked outside, and all the council members are there for some reason. Yeah, I'll have to send you the press release JSO sent out when these things were originally... Because one of the questions was like, well, what if my friend ran the red light? Their solution was, well, a real friend would pay for your ticket.
There was one back when we had the scammers in Charlotte. Thankfully, they were all taken down after a huge public outcry. But there was this one intersection. We're right on Red State. And there was this one intersection where people kept getting the tickets, even though they were making legal right turns while it was red. In fact, it was even a protected right turn. It was the green arrow pointing right. And so they'd just go right through. The camera would snap and they'd get the ticket.
I remember several places have done this, and that most of what they do issue are legal right-on reds. I've gotten 2 red light tickets from the city of Boca Raton, which is down by Miami, and I haven't been down by Miami in like 4 years. They quote-unquote guessed the license plate.
Like his license plate started with WOI and yours started with W01 or something?
Well, they said they can make out the fact that both license plates started with V.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that really narrows it down.
The car that was like a silver Honda Accord, and I definitely don't drive a silver Honda Accord, and I own a specialty Florida State Seminole alumni tag, and they had the regular Florida tag.
So did you get them thrown out of court then?
Oh, yeah, but...
Yeah, they try. Oh, they try. Okay, get this. This guy, Ed Fortune, is in jail in New Jersey for marijuana possession. And for 10 days every month, he is let out of jail so he can smoke marijuana.
No. Let's just move on. No. Move on.
No. Here's what happened. Okay, Fortune suffers from cancer, and he's a medical marijuana patient in California. New Jersey has medical marijuana laws as well. However, Fortune was arrested before New Jersey's medical marijuana law came into existence. Even though medical marijuana was legal by the time he was sentenced, he still went to jail. But since you can't prohibit an inmate from getting his medicine, they have to let him go smoke marijuana as part of his cancer treatment.
No. I just... No.
I mean, what if all laws work like this? Oops, sorry, you were born a slave before the 13th Amendment passed, so you're a slave for life. Sorry, you're still in jail for helping slaves escape. You know.
Yeah, I can't even begin to... This is so pants on head retarded.
Well, there actually is a happy ending here. The day before we recorded this podcast, his sentence was vacated after 130 days and a lot of public outcry, so I think we can probably mark this one in the victory column, although it'd be interesting to see if he can get any compensation for those 130 days that they arrested him for getting his medicine.
If he is, it'll be like 5 years later.
And just be paid for by the taxpayers anyway, and no one involved will suffer any consequences whatsoever.
God bless America.
Yeah. Well, Amanda Knox and her ex-boyfriend Raphael Solicito have been convicted in an Italian court of murdering Meredith Kircher. Knox was sentenced to 28.5 years in prison and Solicito 25. So what's the problem with that? They were both acquitted back in 2011.
Yeah. So
it's like the Italian prosecutors went, do-over!
Because she was convicted of being guilty in, 2009. Then she was acquitted in 2011 on appeal because, I guess, the evidence was flimsy.
There's really no evidence at all. All of the forensic evidence in the case points to Rudy Gov't as the murderer, and he was convicted in 2008 and has exhausted all of his appeals. He could be released as early as this year. They claim that Knox was the murderer and attacked Kirchner, banging her head against the wall, stabbing her, killing her, and taking her cell phones. But while Guetta's shoe prints, fingerprints, and DNA were found in the bedroom, his DNA on Kirchner's body and clothing, and his skin cells inside her body, absolutely nothing at all was found to show that Knox was ever even in the room. No shoe prints, no fingerprints, no clothing fibers, no hair, no fingernails, no DNA, nothing. And the prosecutor claimed that Knox had wiped away all of that evidence. But first of all, it's really difficult to sterilize a crime scene of all your DNA and everything else. How much more impossible is it to clean all of that away while leaving his? I mean,
and sadly, there's plenty of American Bogosity like that spewed in American courtrooms as well. But like I said, this is pretty clearly just an example of a prosecutors on a power trip. And one thing which I guess there's like presiding judges in Italy that make rulings as well or something.
I'm not sure how it works, but in the United States, I don't know if a judge can just arbitrarily give a guilty verdict, but a judge could give a not guilty verdict if the defense shows that no reasonable jury would convict on the basis of that evidence. And that's as strong as an acquittal, and they don't get a second shot at it.
Right. So, yeah, to me, this is just somebody's just looking to make a name for themselves, and because this has been a worldwide media shitstorm, for lack of a better term.
Well, and keep in mind, this is the same country that convicted geologists for not predicting an earthquake.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, Knox understandably refuses to return to Italy for sentencing. It's probable that there will be an extradition proceeding against her. Here's hoping some country somewhere decides to give her asylum.
Yeah, because it sure won't be America.
It'd be nice to think that some country would, and we're actually living in the 21st century, and not the 16th. You say you don't like Bitcoin? Why not? Oh, because it's not gold. No problem. Just go to coins.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to Coinable, where you can buy gold or silver coins or bars with your Bitcoins, with literally up-to-the-minute spot pricing. Now there's no reason not to jump on the Bitcoin bandwagon. Whether you're a Bitcoin miner, service operator, Bitcoin business owner, or market speculator, you can get gold and silver from reputable dealers. And Coinable has Bitcoin liquidity for fast processing of your order. Coinable even utilizes a special shipping infrastructure to ensure that your investment arrives safely at your door. And you know what? By going to coins.bogosity.tv, you won't pay a penny more, a Satoshi more for your purchase. but you'll help this podcast. You can even sell your gold and silver for Bitcoin as well. Coinable is your Bitcoin to gold marketplace. So go to coins.bogosity.tv and start turning your Bitcoins into gold now. Bogosity.tv and all of its services are hosted at GoDaddy. I've been a satisfied GoDaddy customer for over 10 years now. Their prices are great, and their 24/7 support is second to none. So I'm happy to be able to give you this special offer. Just sign up for any new domain, web hosting, email, or many other services and get 35% off by typing in the code WOWNOBOGON. That's WOWNOBOGON. Because there's nothing bogus about these savings on quality internet service. Get your own .com with a personalized email address or establish your online business in a snap, all for 35% off. Or check the right-hand side of the podcast page for special offers on GoDaddy products. Get great savings on quality internet services. Just go to GoDaddy.com and use the code WOWNOBOGON. And now it's time to selectively edit this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And this week it goes to The Daily Show for their obviously fraudulent editing of investment advisor Peter Schiff.
Yeah, I mean, this is what The Daily Show does. I know somebody who was on one of their segments, and yeah, this is what they do. I mean, they take 2-hour interviews and edit them down into the 2-minute sound bites that they need, which is the news that they so often love to hate on does the exact same thing. They just pick out different parts to edit.
Yeah, but this seems extreme even for The Daily Show. I mean, this is Michael Moore level here. I mean, they pull every editing trick in the book to make Schiff look like a selfish elitist moron. And it's clear they don't even know anything about economics, because they depict a supply-demand curve in the job market, and they show the workers on the supply curve, and it slopes down, and they all slope down the supply curve and crash off the edge of the screen. And the problem is supply curves slope upward.
You know, because, damn it, as prices go higher, we need people demand more of any product.
Yeah. Now, after probably thousands of people who actually know economics pointed this out to them, they did a bit of Soviet revisionism on their website and changed the video to relabel the curves. So I guess they were always at war with Oceania.
Now, granted, I mean, some 20-year-old intern got basically like, okay, here's what you need to cook up for this segment, make a supply-demand graph.
But the problem is, even after the fix, it has workers on the demand curve when workers are the supply. And it says Economics 101 at the top. I guess they fail Economics 101.
Sadly, most people would.
Yeah, which is why they can get away with it. But as for the Schiff interview, I analyzed the video. The entire segment, not including Jon Stewart's parts at the beginning and the end, is 4 minutes and 42 seconds. Of that, the segments with the Schiff interview total just under 2 minutes, only 41% of the segment, well less than half. And of that, Schiff himself only speaks for 78 seconds. Out of this 3 or 4 hour interview, they only get 78 seconds of Schiff actually saying stuff, and that's only about 28% of the segment.
There you go.
And the shill that she got to lie about the minimum wage studies got to talk for segments that were 2 or 3 times as long as Schiff's. And even in Schiff's segments, you have these big problems. And here's the one that got the internet in just a tizzy.
Paint me a picture of a person whose work would be worth $2 an hour.
You know somebody who might be? Maybe somebody who is, what's the politically correct word, for mentally retarded. What's the new...
Now this is really bad form for interview editing. Schiff is clearly searching for the right word to use, and they're just showing him searching for the right word and not giving you his final statement.
Yeah, that's just straight up. You know there was somebody in the editing room like with a hit piece in mind for this.
Well, I don't know about The Daily Show, but I know that most local news reporters edit their own segments. I don't know if Samantha Bee did or not, but I mean, it's her segment. I would think she would at least be there behind the editor saying, no, put this there and use this part. And what's worse is when all the numerous news reports and blogs and all the ones jumping on the anti-Schiff bandwagon quoted him, they didn't include all of the words to show that he was searching for the right term. They quoted it as though it were a fully formed thought.
well, then we can't have our righteous internet anger. You have to be angry at something.
You have to be angry at something safe. What was that line from Futurama? It's high time we had a politician with the courage to stand up and say, I'm against the things that everybody hates. Now listen to this bit.
What's the new...
Okay.
It's what I believe in, the principles that the country was founded on.
But
I'm not going to say that we're all created equal. You're worth what you're worth.
you're worth what you're worth.
Now I will bet you any amount of money that if we saw the unedited interview, Samantha's okay and but were not there at that particular time. And moreover, I'd also bet that his phrase about the principles this country is founded on is from a different part as well. And to my ears, the edits are clear. She's not even leaving in his full sentences. That wasn't even the totality of what he said.
Who was I know one of the YouTube guys, he did a real good interview. He did a breakdown on how those segments are created and edited.
Well, I mean, understand, every editor does this. You have to tell a story, and you have to take these things out of context because the real context is boring. But if you're being honest, then what you're left with is still an accurate representation of what the person said. This is way beyond bad form for interview editing. This is what you do when you want to be deceptive, when you're being deliberately deceptive, and this is just a microcosm of how the whole interview is presented. I mean, you've got sentence fragments, you've got cutaways like reaction shots. Those are all valid tools the editor uses to make things more dynamic, but there are also things that can be used to make it appear that someone is saying something other than what they've actually said. By like taking two phrases from different parts of the interview, you put them together. During that edit, you cut away and you watch the reaction from the person interviewing them. Again, that's a valid thing to do when you're not being deceptive. But when you're being deceptive, you're being deceptive. And in particular, when the sentences don't have a coherent flow from one to another, that's something that most people might just think, oh, well, he's a goofball talking out of his rectal orifice. But a skilled editor would spot it in an instant as something fishy going on. It kind of reminded me about that video with Richard Dawkins and the creationists asking him whatever it was. I forget what the question was, but he realized he'd been had, and then he thought for a second and said, can we turn the camera off? You remember that one?
Was that the one with the aliens?
I don't remember, but then they put it back on and put it in an earlier part of the interview and kind of made it look like he was being evasive and stuff like that. That's the kind of dishonesty we're talking about here. But here's the big thing about all this controversy about how Schiff doesn't think the mentally handicapped deserve to be paid minimum wage. This is directly from the website of the U.S. Department of Labor. Quote, individuals whose earning or productive capacity is impaired by a physical or mental disability, including those related to age or injury, may be paid sub-minimum wages pursuant to a certificate issued by the Secretary of Labor. Employment at less than the minimum wage is authorized to prevent curtailment of opportunities for employment for workers with disabilities. So the intellectually disabled are exempt from minimum wage laws. Even the government recognizes what B and everyone else is criticizing Schiff for.
Damn it, we don't know what we have to be screaming about to get mad about it, Shane.
But again, it's like people can't make the case for minimum wage honestly with intellectual arguments, so they have to attack the character of the people making them.
Well, that or, I'm sure you've seen the meme that's been floating around lately, the one that's like a fast food worker at $15 an hour and it's a kiosk.
I hadn't seen that one, no. Yeah, electronic devices will work for less than $15 an hour.
There is no real comeback to that.
Well, Peter Schiff posted this response on his Facebook page. Quote, it would be great if we can all contact The Daily Show and ask them to post the 3+ hours of unedited footage they took. It really was some of my best stuff. I really clobbered all of Samantha's arguments. She was very frustrated. I'm pretty sure I convinced everyone else in the room that the minimum wage should be abolished. Now, okay, Schiff tends to be a little bit full of himself, but his solution's completely right. Post the full unedited interview and let people see for themselves.
You're going on The Daily Show, and you're not the guy that they have live being interviewed by Stewart. You're going to be made to look like an ass.
But even so, it can only be Samantha Bee and The Daily Show for this week's biggest Bogon Emitter. And now it's time to reverse the polarity of this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And this week, it goes to China, as in the country of China, as in that whole big geographic area known as the People's Republic of China. Okay? So, imagine this. All of the internet traffic from the whole friggin' country, from all of its 568 million internet users, more than the rest of the world combined, more than the entire population of the United States, for 8 hours, all of their traffic was redirected to a small building in Wyoming.
Sounds legit.
I mean, as epic fails go, this has got to be the epicest.
Yeah. And how did it end up in a small building in Wyoming?
Well, what's going on is it's tied to that whole censorship regime they've got going on, which many call the Great Firewall of China. So all of the traffic going from China has to go through there, because they like deciding what sites people can and cannot access, and they don't need a court order from Hollywood to do it. Well, the building in question belongs to Sophia Incorporated, which apparently is a company that provides services to help people get around censorship blocks like China's blocking of websites. So apparently, China tried to block the site and got it just a little wrong. Instead of saying, don't allow any traffic to Sophia, they said, send all traffic to Sophia.
You know, government work.
Yeah, so Sophia's servers lasted about a millisecond before they crashed. And that's not a hyperbole, that's what analyst Hycospect estimated. And later that day, a separate wave of traffic from China was dumped on the servers of Dynamic Internet Technology, another company that exists to help people evade internet censorship. I mean, doing it once is dumb enough. Doing it twice?
Hey.
But there really is nothing else other than the Great Firewall that could have done this. I mean, this has to be the biggest denial of service attack in internet history.
I'm just shaking my head at this. Like I said, if you want censorship just going amok, this is a good job of it.
Is something going hideously wrong because of government censorship? Who'd have thought?
I know.
Which means that China and its Great Firewall speed past all the others to become this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. Well, that wraps up this I see you have the machine that goes ping edition of the Bogosity podcast. Please visit the forums of Bogosity.tv, where you can read the show notes and join the discussion on these and other subjects. This podcast is free but not free to produce, so please donate via PayPal or Bitcoin at the top of the Bogosity.tv website or down the right-hand side of the podcast page, and give generously to keep this podcast going. And if you'd like to contribute to the podcast, just send a question, statement, news article, or rant to podcast@Bogosity.tv. Put it in an audio file, and if it's good enough, it'll get played right in the podcast. Thank you for listening, and thanks again to Jonathan Loesche for joining me.
I had a great time. Hope to be back soon.
Until next time, here's a quote from Judy Blume. Let children read whatever they want, and then talk about it with them. If parents and kids can talk together, we won't have as much censorship, because we won't have as much to fear. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 3.0 Imported License.
Bogosity.
Do you want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again. Well, personally, I hope this is part of a worldwide twin. Worldwide twin. You squooey wabbit.